take a lesson from one of the OGs. And I personally, as a youngster, I think
when Muslims look at these issues, we always like to throw in what I call hate of black is a satanic thing, meaning it's going back to Iblis. They sold out in 48 hours.
Allahu Akbar.
And why?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's your brother Daud Locust speaking, Internchange. We'll come to the first episode of A Lesson with Abu Salahudeen. Mashallah. This online show is actually dedicated to you guys, and specifically to the youngsters on the streets of London. We've both recognized, and many other people have recognized, that there is a crisis going on, an identity crisis. And a lot of people don't know what happened 20 years ago and prior to that. So what we want to do in this show is, inshallah, take a lesson from one of the OGs. And I personally, as a youngster, I think we don't pay as much respect to the elders, and there should be a link. We need mentors and people who have experience in hikmah.
But brother Daud, it goes both ways, because the youth have an obligation to listen to the elders, but the elders have an obligation to make sure they're there for the young ones. And unfortunately, there has been that kind of historical disruption that hasn't been able to take place, so that there could be a mentoring through the young Muslims, the young mu'miners, Muslimers, subhanAllah. So hopefully we can start to readdress things. But as I say to people, everything happens with the qadr of Allah. And if this is the time, we ask Allah to make it.
Inshallah. Of course. So Black History Month, which will be discussed in the next episode. The letter for Willie Lynch. The letter for Willie Lynch.
The Willie Lynch letter.
The Willie Lynch letter. A lot of people, how many people know about that?
See, this is the thing.
Can you just explain it to the viewers a bit in a brief?
The Willie Lynch letter is a letter that has been attributed to a slave master in, I think, the 16th century in Virginia in America. And essentially, he writes on how you can control the slaves. Essentially, he's talking about to suppress them, to stop them rising up against you. I came across the letter about 17, 18 years ago.
I think he was actually from the Caribbean, and because it was going so well, and then
this is one of the interesting things amongst some black historians. Where they've actually analysed the language of the Willie Lynch letter, and they say it's not reflective of that particular time in history. Now, I know Professor Mainu Ampin, who's a well-respected African-American historian, Egyptologist, has said it's actually a fake. But what I would say is, if it's a fake, what it contains is very real. So, for example...
Sorry, I just broke you up. You were explaining it to them, what the Willie Lynch letter is.
As I say, the Willie Lynch letter, was a letter by a Caribbean slave master, that what he wanted to do was show how you could continue to mentally keep the slaves enslaved, really, which is what it's about, so that they don't rise up, have rebellions. And as I say, through my own research, and I respect the opinion of Professor Mainu Ampin, he says that it's a forgery. But what I would say is what it contains is actually being played out for real in the black community.
Subhanallah.
So he talks about utilizing lighter skinned black people against darker skinned black people, to pit the male against the female, to pit the person with straight hair against the person with quote unquote kinky afro hair, to pit the young against the old, the old against the young, essentially to keep the people in a constant state of instability. So, and it's the old adage, divide and rule, and that is what they are doing. And that is what is outlined in the Willie Lynch letter. Even if it's a fake, we see it being played out every day in the black community globally. Not just here in the UK, in America, in Latin America, all over the world.
You know what is so interesting about this? There was actually a report I've watched the other day about this culture in South India and I think, India and Thailand. Bleaching. It is a big problem.
The biggest product in India today is Fair and Lovely. which is a skin bleaching cream. Recently in Nigeria, a Nigerian singer produced her own range of skin bleaching cosmetics.
Oh yeah, I've seen her. Yeah.
They sold out in 48 hours.
Allahu Akbar.
And why did that happen? Because the people have had it ingrained in them that the perception of beauty is white. This is, as we discussed it, or we will discuss, why does Beyonce dye her hair blonde, bleach her skin? Because white has become the marker of beauty. Black skin now, if you look at, let's take the word black, look it up in a dictionary, dark, sullen, even association of evil.
Yeah.
Who wants to associate with that? I remember once I had my dictionary. I looked up the angel cake. It said white, nice. Then there was the devil cake, dark, muddy.
Subhanallah, you know what is so interesting about this is, or what's so amazing is when you look into Islam,
Yeah.
black is actually a royal color. The Kaaba's black.
Yeah.
The Prophet says the best of olives are the black ones.
Yes.
The black stone.
Well, look, subhanAllah, see,
Allahu Akbar.
this, we have to remember.
Yeah.
Humanity is descended from a black man. Who is that? Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Even his very name, Adam, or Adam, in Arabic, it means black. Subhanallah. So why would it not have good qualities to it? It's only in recent history, black has taken on a negative concept. In what I would call pre-colonial European history, it had a positive aspect.
So we can note that the blackism, if I may say that, has become a problem of different ethnicities. The darker you are,
Yeah.
the less of value you are.
Yeah, you are. The darker you are, the less value you are, the less appealing for marriage you are. And unfortunately, now this is one of the things I want to say. When Muslims look at these issues, we always like to throw in what I call the European colonization card.
Yeah.
Oh, the Europeans did it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't explain how in pre-colonial British India, why the Dalits, who are the original inhabitants of India, are seen as being at the bottom of the caste system.
Okay.
And the Brahmins, who are the descendants of the Aryan invaders, are at the top. So it shows you.
Well, I actually didn't know that. You know?
Yeah. I mean, this is well known. The Aryans are Indo-European invaders into India.
Okay.
That suppressed and oppressed the Dalits, or what was also called the Harappan civilization, who, by all accounts, and their ancestors still live in India today, were what we would call a Negroid African black people. Even if we go back to the depictions of the Hindu gods, Krishna is depicted as a black god. It's only recently he's been depicted in this light blue color.
Okay.
But he in ancient history, he was a black god, Krishna, subhanallah.
Yeah.
So this, I have come to the conclusion that this, what I would call the hate of black, is a satanic thing, meaning it's going back to Iblis. May Allah curse him.
I mean.
Because Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was black. And we know Iblis hated our father Adam. So I believe that, and Allah knows best. I'm not speaking as an absolute. But because as black people, we are what I would call the closest descendants of Adam, or we are the closest people representative of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, Iblis, out of his sheer hatred, has instigated globally this hate of black.
That's a really interesting theory. I mean, you know what? Like some viewers might think that we are some, African nationalist, and we keep talking about black. I think one thing what a lot of people don't understand is that the term black means something completely else in Islam, or or even in the Arab language.
In any society, you have to look at the society. So like I said, when I gave the examples, if we talk about European languages, black is sullen and evil. But, even Arab poets talk about, the beauty of, I think they said like hair that hangs like black grapes in their poetry and that type of thing. So I think we have to look at the context of the culture it's coming from. Like, that's like saying, does black have a negative in Africa? No, it doesn't. Because often when you see the blackest clouds, means the most fullest clouds with rain. Rain brings what? An end to drought. It brings in cultivation of crops and food and so forth.
Yeah.
So I think we have to look at it within that context. Is when you say black, and even this idea of black, you know, black in a Europe. What do we mean by black? You know, when we speak of people of indigenous to Africa, are only West Africans what we would call the archetype of black people?
Yeah.
What about East Africans, Ethiopians? They're indigenous to Africa, but they don't look like West Africans.
Yeah.
West Africans don't look like Southern Africans.
Yeah.
But yet they're all encompassed. So this word black is very loaded.
Yeah.
It's very loaded. I prefer the term, you know, we could use it. It's a colonial term, African, people of African descent. Because like I say, we cannot take the West African as an archetype for all Africans.
Yeah.
That would be wrong to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just very quickly, because then we get into the European concept where they spoke about Hamites and Cushites and all of this, you know, rubbish.
Yeah, yeah. Because personally, prior to actually studying and doing research on Africa and Islam, I've just realized that you know what, it was never about the skin color.
Yeah, yeah.
It was always about the personality of someone, and that's why I keep when I see people and I give them dawah. I say to them, hey, listen, the only way you can be better than me is when you fear Allah, when you speak the truth, when you justice, when you establish justice.
Yes.
You know, all these things. This makes you better. Yeah. But
the best example is the Quran. At the conquest of Mecca, Bilal radiallahu anhu climbed on top of the Kaaba and called the adhan.
Yeah.
Now some of the Arabs who had just come into Islam turned to each other and said, oh, it's good that my father hasn't lived to see this black slave on top of the Kaaba. And what did Allah say? He revealed the verse to
يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير.